were being taxed out of their home. Their tax payments were more than their house payments. There was a real crisis going on at that point. But what happened was the legislature said, well, we'll deal with the homeowners. And there was many of us who were very concerned about the small businesses and the second homeowners. And the comments that were made were, even through the realtors and the home builders, were all told that it would be addressed the next year. And the biggest lesson to me, the biggest lesson to the people of the state should be there never is a next year. If we can't do it right the first time, we don't need to do it. We need to remember that today, tomorrow, and always, that when you pass any sort of reform, we have to always think about year 3 and 5 and 7 and what it's going to do to the state. The reason that they dealt with the primary homeowners and not the second business owners or the second homeowners in the businesses is because they don't vote. So we need to turn around and realize investment into this state is key. And what we never need to let that happen again is the fact that you band-aid part of it and never look at the whole reform and what the future consequences will be.
Thank you, ma'am. Attorney General McMaster, your view on 388.
Well, that's another example of piecemeal legislation that had unintended consequences. It's just about ruined commercial real estate. But so yes, we need to revisit everything and put everything on the table and have the goal of making taxes lower, flatter, and fairer. And if we do that, we can compete with anyone in the country and in the world with the resources and assets that we have here. But part of your question was about education. We need to restructure our educational system. It's not just a question of money, whether it's from 388 or where it comes from. We have a governor who has little authority over education, a superintendent who actually cannot boss around the State Board of Education that's made up of 17 members. They're unaccountable to the people. Then beneath them, you have school districts. We have 85 in the state. People don't know who they are. You have a lack of accountability or command there. The people that are really doing the work are the principals and the teachers, but they fill all their time up filling out federal forms that they can't get the job done. What I would do is have the superintendent appointed by the governor. That would give accountability, make the State Board of Education advisory, be sure that children are learning to read by the time they leave the 3rd grade, and see about having more money go to the classroom and to teachers.
Thank you very much, sir. Congressman Barrett, your view on Act 388?
Mark, yes, we need to go back and revisit it. And I hate to be a broken record, but again, it's the last 3 questions.
Right.
It just begs for comprehensive tax reform. But you did touch on education. We need a steady funding stream for education. We were looking it up the other day. There's actually 4 different funding streams: EFA, EIA, EAA, and First Steps. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could formulate all of these into one central funding stream for education? Let's take it one step further, too. We've got 46 counties, we've got 85 school districts, and 64 different funding sources. If you're a business person, if you're trying to bring accountability and transparency and get those dollars to the classroom where they're so desperately needed, doesn't it make just good business sense to kind of streamline that? What we need is accountability at the state level, but we can give the districts flexibility to work with those budgets as they see fit.
Thank you very much, sir. Representative Haley, we'll get the next question. This has to do with incentives and economic development. The Post and Courier reporting that the Boeing incentive deal likely to be one of the most incentivized deals between business and a state in recent modern history. $1 billion is what's being reported now. There's been discussions about incentives for a low-country mall just last week, for a low-cost airline carrier, perhaps for the upstate. How do you make the case to believers in a free market system that this isn't simply putting the economic needs of some over others, and where do you draw that line of what's good incentives and what isn't?
You know, I think it's important that we understand it's not about the quantity of businesses that we bring here, it's the quality of businesses that we bring here. When BMW came, BMW didn't just add a lot of jobs, they actually helped a lot of the small businesses that were around that company. When Boeing came, Boeing not only brought their own jobs, but they are benefiting so many of our South Carolina businesses. This is all about the businesses we already have, the 95% of our economy that turns. We need to turn around and make sure that the businesses we bring are quality businesses. The reason that retail chain in Jasper was so dangerous was because they were basically going to take business from South Carolina businesses already. That's what we don't want. We only want what's going to bring more business to the businesses that we already have. It's about good quality paying jobs. It's about making sure that we are increasing the jobs that we have. It's about making sure that we have the skilled workforce so that they're not going out of state and out of country to get it. But at the end of the day, it is about the quality of the programs that we bring in here, but it will all go back to the fact we need to have a good tax structure. We need to have a good educated workforce, and we need to have roads, bridges, and competitive airfares so that we continue to draw in companies to the state.
Thank you, ma'am. Attorney General McMaster, your view on incentives in economic development.
My view is that those incentives were well worth it. We had the same argument with BMW years ago. That was well worth it. That's helped to move us into the knowledge-based economy. All these different clusters grow around these new big businesses, and they expand out all across the state. We saw the same thing with Mercedes when they went to Alabama. They about ran the governor off down there who gave those incentives. Now they're looking to give him an award because it's producing so much. I think it's always a business decision, and you weigh what you're giving against what you're getting. And for a business like Boeing, you get it. But the lesson from Boeing is we got that despite the lack of any coordinated effort from the top to the bottom with a strategy of how to develop the businesses in the state. We did not have that kind of effort going on. They were just as a perfect storm of coincidences with Judge Billy Wilkins in Greenville talking to his former colleague on the bench who used to be who was the counsel for Boeing, said, yes, we want you, and Hugh Leatherman and Glenn McConnell and Paul Campbell, and all of these happened to be at the right place, and we got them. But that tells us if we can get a business like that to come here when we are really going in different directions and don't have a strategic plan, imagine if we adopt a strategic plan like the one I have produced, and just imagine what we can do.
Yes, sir. Congressman Barrett, your view on this particular topic.
Mark, believe it or not, the same incentive plan that helped bring Boeing to South Carolina is basically the same incentive plan that helped bring BMW 20 years ago. We knocked the rust off of it and brought it up to 2010 standards, but the fact of the matter is there's 900 jobs going to Marion County that would not be there were it not for Boeing. There's a titanium plant in Lawrence, South Carolina, my congressional district, that would not be there were it not for Boeing. Not to mention the carbon fibers plants that's looking to locate in South Carolina, and the aerospace industries that are thinking, including the spinoffs. Absolutely, we need to take a look at that. We need to be competitive. We're competing with the Alabamas, with the Georgias, with the North Carolinas. But it's more than that. It's having a governor that goes to bed every night and wakes up every day thinking about how he's going to bring jobs and economic growth. He can start by restructuring the Department of Commerce, for one thing.
Representative, thank you very much. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, your response, sir.
I can tell you, as the only person here tonight that's still running a business, it's not just about money. Clearly, incentives help. But as your next governor, I'll sit at the table when that company is here to find out if South Carolina is in fact where they'd like to locate their business. A person from DHEC will be there to assure them that in a timely fashion they'll be able to get their permits. We'll have someone from the city and county immediately telling them as well. It won't be held up by red tape and bureaucracy like so many businesses tell me time and time again. Water, they'll know it's adequate and they can get it immediately, and also the cost. Same thing with the power. It'll be everything they're concerned about as a business, not just the money, which is in fact a factor, but you've got to do that on a case-by-case basis. And I would tell you lastly, just 2 weeks ago, I sat down with a Fortune 500 company here in South Carolina that actually is located in North Carolina, and they are now interested in moving to South Carolina because of the relationship I've already built with them. So I'm not going to have to get on job training for over 20 countries as your Lieutenant Governor. I've already been there working with companies that are looking or already in South Carolina.
Thank you, sir, very much. Mr. McMaster, we'll get the next question. This has to do with immigration. The recent law signed in Arizona receiving a lot of national attention here in the last week, requiring law enforcement to question people about their immigration status if they're believed to be here illegally. We've already had a similar bill filed in the General Assembly so far this year. Chances are, if you were governor, you may be faced with a similar type bill this time next year. Would you sign today's version of the Arizona bill as it appears in law?
I would. And not only that would I sign it, but I'm the only candidate running who has a background in criminal prosecution, law enforcement, and public safety, and I would know how to enforce it. The national government has completely abdicated its responsibility in keeping our borders safe. If we can't keep our borders safe, we are asking for all kinds of problems. I think the people of Arizona and Governor Jan Brewer decided that they had enough. When Washington won't act, sometimes the states have to act. And a lot of times when Washington acts in the wrong way, as they did by passing Obamacare, by passing the bailout, by passing the stimulus, then the states have to rein them in. And that's why I brought the lawsuit with 19 other attorneys general to stop Obamacare.